40s, when the situation in the country was very, very difficult and extremely heated, charged up, where communal rights were, you know, from 1940 to 47, that was the order of the day. Bombay cinema actually ignored or avoided dealing with the communal question. They didn't deal with it, and if they dealt with it indirectly. The communal question was not dealt with. However, there are still films, and I'm going to show you one or two clips from films that actually did deal with it. Why? Because they were made by filmmakers who felt this was very important, and that this was a question that needed to be addressed in the mainstream film medium, so that it was released in mainstream cinema halls and it could actually reach audiences and make a difference. And in other words, there was an idealistic vision behind this, and there was an attempt to look at the most pressing political issue of the day. In the 40s and later, Hindu-Muslim inter-community relations and the communal question was generally not addressed. And there was a silence around the partition, just as there was a silence around the partition in other discourses, in other fields as well. Does that mean that the Muslim, for instance, was not depicted at all? No, of course the Muslim was depicted. But there were 2 or 3 dominant ways of depicting the Muslim. And one of the most common ways of depicting the Muslim, the figure of the Muslim, was the good Muslim, Khan Chacha. And you can remember Kabuliwala, for instance. The figure of Kabuliwala, played by Balraj Sahni, in a Bimal Roy film, and he is the figure who is the most lovable figure. So generally the Khan Chacha figure is a figure who is loved by all, humane, moral, the moral center in many ways of. Now there can be many reasons why that happened, but this is one common stereotype which is a positive image of the Muslim that was deployed in Hindi Urdu cinema from the 1940s onwards. I'll show you a clip. Now, I don't know how many of you recognize this. This is of course Guru Dutt. The film is Chaudhary Ka Chand. I'm drawing attention to something that was very common in post-independence Bombay cinema, and that was the construction of a genre which became very popular in the 50s and the 60s called the Muslim social. The Muslim social genre. The Muslim social was a contemporary film about Muslim characters, a self-enclosed Muslim world, and it was about the social issues that faced the Muslim community. This is a film about Parda. I want you to pay attention to what we in film studies call mise en scène. Mise en scène means the character in the setting. What is the set? How is the character performing? How is light? How is the camera being used? And what are the elements of performance? So pay attention, this is a song. Architecture, right? See, this film was made in 1960. Try to imagine 1960. What is the situation in India in 1960? And film after film in the 60s, Muslim socials. Mere Mehboob, Mehboob ki Mehndi, Bahu Begum, this film, Mere Huzur. Kyun ban rahi hai itni sari filmein aisi? Kyun ban rahi hai? What is the issue? So I want to draw your attention to the genre, what we know, all for film scholars call the Muslim social. The Muslim social is a late genre. It begins in the late 40s, just before partition, and it is a genre that is used to address the crucial sort of issues of the community, and the genre continues post-independence. Why? That's a question that I'm going to return to, but just I wanted to leave it with you, and I'll come back to that question. But to come back now to the question of the figure of the Khan Chacha figure. A film called Chhaliya, one of the rare films in Bombay cinema that addresses partition head on. Okay, and it was made by Manmohan Desai, surprisingly, but not so surprisingly. Manmohan Desai is also the man who makes Amar Akbar Antony later on. So clearly community identities and identities that are connected to social living was an important question for him. And now look at the figure and try to see what Manmohan Desai is trying to do here. The figure of the Muslim here, right? And also, I mean, you couldn't say it very well, but when you watch the film, the context where they are actually, where this is shot is in the ruins of Purana Killa, where the refugee camps had been built in Delhi in the post-partition. Notice also the use of the names Shanti and Sakina. Again, these are names that are in partition literature, they are common, they're used, they're symptomatic of the Hindu, the woman, and the Muslim woman whose bodies bear the brunt of the violence of the partition. Now, I didn't quite want to address the woman's question here. I was more interested in actually bringing to your attention the figuration of the Muslim man. And you have a portrait here of a Muslim who is completely the opposite of the bloodthirsty rioteer, the man who's killing and raping Hindu women. So the film actually mobilizes this figure, uses the typical stereotype of the Muslim, the stereotype of the Muslim that was circulating in the post-partition moment and the post-partition period, and actually questions that and demonstrates how that's an image that is not universally valid. And it does so in a manner that in narrative terms is very, very important. So it is Pran, the figure, who is actually responsible for Nutan's, well-being and having saved her from the riots and made sure that she came to India.